It's past 7.
Extra time on Tip FM, powered by Munster Solar, your local solar experts, delivering clean, cost-effective energy solutions for a brighter tomorrow. See munstersolar.ie.
Hello, good evening and welcome to another edition of Extra Time. My name is Ronan Quirk. We're here until 8 o'clock this evening. Yeah, Extra Time coming to you on a Tuesday evening after a bank holiday Monday. We hope we enjoy your company till 8 o'clock this evening because we've lots to cover on tonight's show. Don't forget as well, we'll be announcing the winner of the Tip FM Sports Star of the Month for April later in the show. So if you have any thoughts on that, send in a text 083 311 3311. We'll also be looking for nominations for May. Send an email to sportstar@tipfm.com. That's all one word, sportstar@tipfm.com. It's in association with the Talbot Hotel in Clonmel and Quirk Trophies Limited in Clare. Later on we'll hear from Sean Tobin, Sean Tobin, winner of the Dublin City Half Marathon, who ran a great time. And indeed, he and his two fellow teammates, Willie Mansell and David Mansfield, all finishing inside, I think, the top 10 or top 11. An extraordinary result anyway for the three Clonmel AC athletes. And we're also dealing with athletics. Great success for Sharlene Mawdsley, who anchored the women's 4x400 metre relay team home in the repechage race and therefore qualified for the World Championships next year. Marvellous success for her. And also representing Ireland in Botswana was Katie Bergin of Moyne Athletic Club. She was part of the 4x100 metre ladies relay, which didn't unfortunately qualify. We'll have rugby, we'll have horse racing, we'll have local soccer as well. We'll be keeping an eye on a pivotal game that's taking place in the TSDL tonight. St Michael's need to keep winning against Tumal Boris in order to bring the league title race to its final day. That game is kicking off imminently. We'll have news of that before we go off air this evening. Our text number and WhatsApp message number is 083 311 3311. But let's start with hurling. JJ Kennedy's on the line. How are you, JJ?
Hi, Ronan.
I was discussing all week with people what the best outcome from a Tipperary point of view was in relation to the game on Sunday. It's a moot point now. Limerick won well. What was your takeaways from it?
Well, I think we suggested last week that probably the best outcome from a Tipperary perspective was a victory for Limerick, in the sense that if Clare continue to lose both their games, the next one against Cork, of course, which is the big one, apart from our own one. That we could potentially get ahead of them in the pecking order and get into that third position. So I suppose from that perspective we may be neutrals, but that would have been the way we'd have viewed it. As the game itself, I think it was extraordinary. It was Limerick obviously would have been favourites going in, I think, but nobody would have anticipated that they would have absolutely wiped the floor with Clare in the manner that they did, and It was almost scary at times. I thought the sheer power, the sort of the way that Limerick just outmuscled them and outhurled them and out everything them that you could think of. It was a remarkable performance by Limerick, and in that sort of mood they are really an irresistible force of nature when they get into their stride in that way. Their problem is they haven't been able to do that consistently in the last 2 years, 3 years particularly, and but certainly when they hit that form, they really look absolutely awesome.
They do, and I think we also need to remind ourselves that this was a Limerick team without Aaron Gillan and Cian Lynch. Cian Lynch, who almost is the conductor of the orchestra, and Alan Gillan is the converter-in-chief. I mean, these are two serious players to have on the bench, and we will see them. Cian Lynch obviously has served his one-match ban, and Gillan will be back for whenever the Munster Championship concludes. My God, they'll be strong with those two additions.
They will. Somebody was suggesting at the weekend, will the two boys be able to get back into the team? And of course they will, because they're such extraordinary players. But it just shows the sort of depth of talent that they have. I think the thing about them at the moment is that, if you look back at Limerick over their 5 All-Irelands that they won in this generation of players, a lot of it was done with basically the same core players there was very little adjustment on the team from the first one right through of those All-Irelands right through to the fifth one. Now what has happened since then is that you still have that core element there, the old Warriors who have their 5 All-Irelands, but you have this new group of players who have come in to supplement them. And, I'm talking about the Adam English and the Carl O'Neill and Shane O'Brien, Aidan O'Connor, those guys who have come in to supplement the tried and proven guys. And it's extraordinary because even if you take somebody like Carl O'Neill, I mean, he was there in 2022. We remember the sort of controversy at the time when he couldn't play with their under-20s who lost the All-Irelands to Kilkenny, and he was getting a first-team place in a lot of games at that stage. That's what 4 years ago now. So these guys have been around, but unlike our young guns last year, it has taken them a bit of time to serve an apprenticeship and get in and make their impact. But you look at them last Sunday and the way they played, they have certainly made an impact at this stage, and they've really enhanced that team. So it is a scary combination, I think, now, because you have that rich mix of the tried and proven guys and these young guys who are showing real form as well. And as you say, you put in the 2 guys who are missing from last Sunday, and it's a really a scary combination.
Yeah, what I like about that Limerick team as well is that they, there's the likes of the 2 Morrissey brothers. Tom starts, and I think it was Dan who came on when this fullback got his second yellow, and they're still able to mix a blend of the youth that you've identified with some fairly seasoned, battle-hardened, I wouldn't say veterans, but fellas who probably, with the 5 medals in their pockets, still are displaying a significant hunger, which is John Kiley's biggest challenge, I would imagine, to keep him hungry.
Yeah, I guess it is, and that hunger maybe waned a little bit in recent years. The last 2 years, once they missed out on the 5 in a row, I think the hunger did lapse a little bit, and it was there. It was particularly noticeable in some games. Other games, then it wasn't so evident. But they couldn't bring, as I mentioned earlier, they couldn't bring the consistency over the sequence of games. And the one thing you need to win in All-Ireland above all else is consistency. And if you look at last year at Tipperary, that's what Tipperary had above all else. To go through their games from the very opening fixture against Limerick, where they drew right through, they were consistent, apart from the championship opener against Champney one against Cork, which had unique circumstances in it. But yeah, and there may be a sense, and some people speculate on this, that there is a sense is for a lot of those Limerick players, they can't keep going forever, and there is always the idea, one more is this, for some of them, would it be a last fling, that they'd come back and that they'd win another after a break of 2 years. So it's certainly looking good for them at the moment, but we'll have to wait and see how the remaining games unfolds, because if there's anything the Munster Championship has, it is uncertainty.
Yeah, so Clare will be licking their wounds. They need answers, because certainly defensively Limerick posed many, many questions of that Clare defence at the weekend. So Clare now will have to sort of, I don't know, I mean, they'll come to Thurles on Saturday week, and it's a huge game for both teams. And I'm just wondering, the Tip will have had a 3-week break. Clare will be looking to atone for that performance in Ennis. It's going to be a difficult one to call, to be blunt.
It is, yeah, and I suppose the worst thing we could do is to look at that game on Sunday and to think that defines Clare at the moment. It was a very below par performance from the banner, way below what people expected, and you wonder maybe playing all spring in Division 1B, whether that has an impact on it or not, or for whatever reason they seem to come out cold and got caught by Limerick's ferocity really in the match, and they just couldn't get a foothold. They were hit so hard and so early on, and they never really got a foothold in the game. And you were looking to their big players to actually do it. Tony Kelly very much sort of peripheral, marginal for a lot of the game, came into it a bit near the end, and Shane O'Donnell, they're the two. Shane O'Donnell taking some heavy hits and really not able to impact in the way he can either. So that was against Limerick. It was against the Limerick team that was on a mission after losing their first game to Cork. They really had to come out all guns blazing in this one, and they absolutely did. But I think we'll see a very different Clare in Thurles on Saturday week, and that's what Tipperary have to be ready for.
Yeah, but they're not going to be able to find 6 new defenders. And just for context, Waterford scored 421 against them in the opening round of the Munster Championship. Limerick scored 230. That's 651 that they've conceded in 2 matches. Lohan, that's a big worry for Lohan, who was a fantastic fullback in his day. I'm sure he knows defensive structure better than me and you, but he good fullbacks don't grow on trees either.
That's true, yeah, and I think they thought when Conor Cleary got back to fitness and in at fullback that he would be a major stabilising influence, but he had a tough day on Sunday, like a lot of them had. I think when the team has been beaten generally, it's very difficult for a defence to hold up when the waves of attack are coming at them, and they're struggling in different places. They were just off the pace. They were paces behind their men all over the field, and you just can't do that, especially against the Limerick team that's on fire like they were on Sunday. But you look at the overall package that Clare can bring when they get things together. I think they have a lot of power in that forward line when they get moving. We mentioned Tony Kelly and Shane O'Donnell, but you've Mark Rogers there, you've Peter Duggan, you have others as well that blend in, and together it is quite a potent attack when they get moving. So you might say that you will profit a little at their defensive ends, that we have the potential to get scores against that defence the way it's playing at the moment. But they have certainly a lot of potential at the other end too, that you have to balance one against the other.
That's fair. Tom McGrath's with us. How are you, Tom?
Not bad, Ronan. Hi, JJ.
Hi, Tom.
I'm going to get yourself and JJ to engage in a discussion on black cards. Tom, I'll let you go first in relation to what you saw in Ennis, and whether or not you think, this is a difficult one to tee you up with, whether or not you think the wording of the rule is offers sufficient clarity, and whether or not you think it's been implemented correctly.
It's a both, I suppose. Really, there was the same problem when the sin bin came in the football. A player had to be pulled to the ground. But sure, what's the difference between pulling a fella down and putting your 2 arms around and holding him up and just blatantly fouling him? I mean, a penalty is a penalty, and I think black card follows. I mean, the Clare one, the Clare black card was less of a black card in some ways because there was plenty of cover back. I mean, that anomaly was there for a while as well. But look, it's not simple. And then the referees are the fall guys with the anomaly in the thing. Then, but I think the clarity and some of the ex-referees then coming up and saying the letter of the law was followed. There's the letter of the law, the spirit of the law. I mean, it was a clear penalty. And even the case for the one in the first half. I mean, it was only at about the fourth viewing that you saw the jersey pull. But there was enough damage done to Mark Rogers going through to merit at least a free. If not, no, I wouldn't go the whole way. Maybe a free would have been plenty for it. And the penalty in the second half then as well. I think that's the. But tis the writing of the rule. The problem was seen there in the football, and we're supposed to be the same organisation, but. We're not in long ways, Ron. You think we learn from the mistakes that was made in writing the rule in one code, but we don't. That's the sad thing about it.
JJ?
Yeah, a couple of things. It's a real frustration that this rule isn't being implemented. There's 2 things I'm going to say. First of all, the rule is badly worded. I'll get to that in a moment. But the other thing is, even as badly worded as it is, I fail to see how referees don't implement it. I thought the Nash one was just a stonewall penalty and black card. I don't know how you could argue otherwise, even though some people have tried to do that. He was pulled down. There was also careless use of the hurl. He swung across him, so it kind of ticked the box on the boxes in two areas with regard to that particular rule. Why it wasn't a penalty, why the penalty was given, but the black card wasn't, why that was done, I cannot figure it out. I have certain sympathy with referees when you have a sort of a very marginal decision outfield in a collision or whatever, like the sort of David Byrnes one on Shane O'Donnell. In the live action, it can be difficult maybe to get that exact, and it takes video viewing and reviewing of it before you see exactly that it certainly wasn't shoulder to shoulder. So I have sympathy for referee in that situation. I have less sympathy when it's inside in front of goal and the referee is able to go in and talk to these two umpires, and there's three of them there, and that they can't get it right, that it should have been a black card. And even in the case of Barry Nash, even if it wasn't a black card, surely to God it was a yellow card, and he was already on a yellow, so he was gone anyway. So clearly Limerick should have been down to 13 players at that stage. The other issue, just on the rule in general, I think playing rules need to be absolutely crystal clear, with no grey areas where there's all loose interpretation of them. They should be absolutely nailed down, in my view. And this rule isn't. It's vague. And even the phrase, goal scoring opportunity, Tom mentioned about, defenders being back. I think that shouldn't come into it at all, because, if any of these forwards gets possession, inside the 20-metre line or inside the D, I don't care if half the opposition team is back. It's a straightforward goal scoring opportunity. So I think that phrase should be taken out of it. And I think the different stipulations, where you must strip the player, you must pull him to the ground, or you must strike him with the hurley, whatever. Again, take those out of it and just put it as a personal foul. Any personal foul within a designated area there in front of the goal, automatic penalty and black card, and leave no room for variations in how it's interpreted by different referees. That's what we've got to get that out of it, those various interpretations, and have it really nailed down. Because listen, it's far too important. I mean, a foul that might or might not be a correct decision out the field is one thing. It might lead to a point or whatever. But you're talking here about a big moment in a game where a goal can be absolutely crucial, not to mention, have been down a player for 10 minutes. So it's a huge match-defining decision very often. And we have to get those right. And unfortunately, they're not getting them right at the moment.
Tom, do you want to come back on anything there?
I think the bottom line is it's more or less, it's Croke Park is doing the thing. Croke Park is the overseeing body for both hurling and football, and like the way the hurling thing is going to the very same mistakes that are made in the football rules are being made in the hurling. That shouldn't be happening. There should be no grey area. They said, judges says the grey area should be eliminated in the thing and seen. But it goes back. There's the law and the spirit of the law. I mean, it was a penalty. It was a black card, or at least judges says a yellow one, and Limerick were down 13 then. But then there seems to be a reluctance that when a team is down one, that it's very hard to put them down two. But I mean, if a guy's entitled to go, he's entitled to go. Like, I mean, that's.
I agree with you. It really is. Can I?
Sorry, can I just take one point, Ronan? There, I think Tom mentions a very important issue. The football people got this right. They saw in their rules that this problem existed, and there was vagueness, where you could grab a player and hold him, and you didn't get a black card, whereas if you pulled him to the ground, you did, and so on. And they got rid of that. Hurling is lagging behind football, and we have a hurling development committee, and the best they could come up with for last year's Congress was to imitate the rule on dissent that football has introduced. I've no objection to that particular rule, by the way. That's fine, but that was the best they could come up with, where we have all this vagueness with regard to the hurling rules, and they couldn't come up with anything to solve any of those. I think it's ridiculous. They really need to get their act together.
Tom, if you, in an ideal world, if you were able to write the rule that you want, would you take the tackle on John McGrath, which resulted in a penalty in Walsh Park last week? Should that have been a black card offence? It was a penalty, and a penalty was awarded. There was no other sanction meted out for it.
No, I think the penalty was enough in the sense that, he wasn't in possession. It was an off-the-ball tackle, if you like. It prevented him from playing the ball as it came to him. He wasn't in possession of the ball. Right?
But was it cynical?
Well, yeah, but he got careful. Like, that's as much. I think that was. I didn't have a problem with that. Like, I think that we got the proper decision was made. But unfortunately, them decisions are not made often enough, because I won't call it skullduggery, welter will that goes on off the ball, the pulling and dragging, that type of stuff. There was one picked up at distance last Sunday as well. But there's numerous ones of those, and it's rampant. Like, but I suppose if you're rewriting the rule, this hand pass or the throw, like the further on it goes, the less use is going to be need for a hurley, except
take penalties,
position or something like that. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, okay. JJ and Tom, we'll come back to throws and steps. That's another one we could spend quite a bit of time on, steps, but we'll come back to that in due course. But I just want to touch briefly on there was two shoulders. One was on Shane O'Donnell was on the receiving end, and the other one he was on the giving end. There was no yellow for the first one. There was no free even given for the first one. And I've looked at it a couple of times in slow motion, and I'm not so sure that Michael did anything wrong. I think, bearing in mind he sees that once in real time and at real speed. The second one, I think he got it right as well. It wasn't a shoulder, it was shoulder to chest, and it resulted in a yellow card. JJ, were you happy enough with that interpretation, bearing in mind, and I suppose I have to stress this, there is an emphasis on head-high challenges and head-high tackles, which are straight reds according to the rules?
Yeah, I think I mentioned already, I would have sympathy for referees in those situations. It's a very high-tempo game. It's moving very fast. Fellas collide like that, and you're trying to judge, is it shoulder to shoulder, or was it more frontal, and was it head high, and so on. Very difficult in the live action. I think we may eventually end up at a situation, similar to rugby. You're familiar with rugby, Ronan, and you know the way they use the video match
television match official, yeah.
The TMO, yeah, to actually look at particular incidents like that, and they generally get it right. I think I'm fair in saying. It's very difficult for a match official like Michael Kennedy on Sunday to get that one right. So I would have sympathy for him on that one. I thought they were very close to red cards, both of them. There is a rule here that anything that's frontal, that's up chest high and head high is very, very dangerous. And it's rightly being targeted in the rules, and the rule says it's a red card, but of course it's not being implemented. Partly because there is this maybe a little bit of uncertainty: was it just slightly off the shoulder, or was it shoulder to shoulder, and so on. But I think they were very close to red cards, both of those, and. It's a problem area because, as you rightly mentioned, Ronan, the whole head injury issue is huge, and it has to be taken very, very seriously.
Absolutely, concussion in contact sport is a big issue. Tom, I'll leave the last word with you.
No, in real time, it looked a fair hit. The first one, Hegarty David Byrnes on Shane O'Donnell. But then you saw another angle. They looked to be in under the kind of nearly under the chin, but I thought for Michael Kennedy is probably getting intense scrutiny, but there was two other guys involved last Sunday, and they're getting the free pass and the whole thing to linesmen. And oftentimes you're told at stages that oftentimes have a broader vision of the play, and I think the linesmen neither did themselves any favours last Sunday with a few bits and pieces. They were in a position to see and give advice, and they're pretty experienced in that area too, and they didn't seem to be getting involved anyway. I mean, let's not forget, they're all mic'd up, and God knows at times with this micing up, it can be, they say 2 heads is better than 1, but when you put 4 or 5 heads into it, you can get an awful lot jam altogether. But Shane O'Donnell's his collision then with the Limerick player kind of was, a little bit maybe of
retribution, getting retaliation.
But no, I think the bottom line at the end of the day, with the head injury assessment and all that type of stuff, right, it was a cheap hit probably on Shane O'Donnell, what I call it when I saw it the second time. But did Shane O'Donnell have to off head injury assessment? No. Did he play on for the rest of the game? He did. Was his performance affected? I'm not sure to any great degree that it was. So I kind of may not have looked as much damage to him as it appeared, as potentially it could have done.
Yeah.
Should that come into the equation? No. But at the same time, no. I figured that was just a heavy, hard hit. But he got squarely hit. They're not nice things to get.
No, I think his teeth rattled all right. Gents, I gotta go. It's 7:30 already and I've nothing done. So listen, thanks for your time. We'll talk next weekend and we'll be reflecting, I think, next weekend on the Waterford. Who's playing next weekend? Waterford Cork next weekend, and see the implications of that. Thanks indeed, lads. Take care.
Thanks,
Thanks indeed. JJ and Tom there with their views on rules and the some analysis as well on Clare against Limerick. Let's go to the chair of the Semple Stadium Committee, Ger Ryan, who's on the line. How are you, Ger?
I'm good, Ronan, and you?
Ger, I'm very well. Ger, I was in the Killiney end for the Cork game, and I have often said on the show, without referees we have no games, but I can also add to that, without stewards we have no games. And I was so impressed with the stewarding that I observed on the Killiney end at a very full Killiney end, and stewards who have to deal with teenage inebriation. They have to deal with lots of things and do it with a high degree of professionalism, but we need more of them.
Yes, that's very much the case, Ronan. You're absolutely right. We're heavily dependent on stewards to stage our games, and when you have over 40,000 people in Semple Stadium and other venues, it's hugely important that we have good stewarding, and we're fortunate with the stewards we have. But we certainly need more of our volunteer stewards at this stage. Some have retired from doing the job after many decades of service. Unfortunately, some others have passed away. But we need more in Semple Stadium at this stage. And we have written to the clubs in the last week or so, and we're getting an appeal out in general that anybody who would like to steward and help people enjoy a good day in Semple Stadium would be very welcome to come on board with us.
What's entailed in the training course?
Well, the training course really is based on how you ensure that people have a proper and safe experience in the stadium. It shows you how to deal with people. It shows you what your role is in terms of showing them to their seats, showing them where things like toilets, etc. are if they have a question, making sure that there's a good and safe flow of people, making sure now the voluntary stewards, which is what we're looking for, are mainly based in the stands, that people get to their seats properly. People can make mistakes at times, read the section number wrong, and that can
at times you've been you've been very kind. It happens every match I've ever been to.
Yeah, and so all of those things, a good steward can make life very easy for spectators in general. They can solve problems very quickly because they know exactly where people should and shouldn't be. And you find most of the time the vast majority of people are very happy to follow the directions of the steward. But again, part of the training is to ensure that people understand the best way of explaining things to people who mightn't know the stadium or may have forgotten it since they were last there, where the different sections are. So the training is focused on showing people what their role and responsibilities are. You know, if they're not able to deal with something, who they should refer somebody to, you know, because again, there can be issues at times, let's say, where there's a duplicate ticket inadvertently issued, where sometimes there will be a line of sight issue with certain seats, things like that, where you'd refer on to, let's say, a more senior steward, etc. So the role is really just showing what you would be responsible for, how to do it with an emphasis on safety and enjoyment of the people who are attending the games.
Yeah, again, just how professional they were. Like, certain sections of a terrace get full, particularly the central areas, and you've got to funnel people away from that area just for pure safety and comfort. Safety being the priority there, and sometimes that has to be explained why they can't go into where their friends are, because that part of the terrace is just too packed.
Exactly, and as I say, it's about the safe flow of people. It's about people being safe, and as you say, you can have problems, particularly I suppose with games at 4:00. You can have problems with inebriation from time to time. Again, a very small section of those who attend. But people need to be trained properly to deal with those situations and to deal calmly with them, because if a steward, for example, it generates any sense of panic, that reflects back on people and that can make matters worse. So training is all about preventing those sort of things happening.
So it's on in the Dome on Saturday the 9th of May, commencing at 10 a.m, last about 3 hours, and you're appealing to clubs to, if every club in Tipperary sent you one, you'd be happy.
Well, exactly. Like that would mean we'd get an extra 70 stewards, which would be brilliant. I'd even be thrilled if we got half of that. So people should contact their club secretaries, and if they're not involved in the club, if they just email templestadium.tipperary@ga.ie, or even just turn up on Saturday morning, we'd be delighted to have them.
Ger, as always, there's lots I could talk to you about, but unfortunately time's against us. Maybe when the championship's over, we'll have a chat.
Love to do that, Ron.
Thanks indeed, Ger. Best of luck with that. I really would endorse that for everything Ger has said there in terms of safety and comfort and ensuring that everyone gets in and out safely into the stadium. As you say, when the stadium is half full, you don't necessarily aren't as dependent on the stewards, but when it's full, like it was against Cork, 44,000 people, you do need help, and some people need help to get around the stadium, and hopefully that'll be well attended. I'm going to change to athletics next, because Clonmel Athletic Club's Sean Tobin won a very competitive Dublin Half Marathon at the weekend in a record time for the course. He spoke to our colleague Oisín Langan at the end of what was a really, really good performance for Sean.
Pretty happy after that, so nice run out, good day for it, great weather, so pretty pleased, yeah. It's an early start, so I think everyone's still a bit took a little bit of time to get into the race, so one of the guys got out pretty hard the first 2K, so I just kept an eye on him, kind of slowly reeled him in, and then just went by, and I was pretty much alone from 2.5K to the finish. So
how tough is that to be kind of out there on your own, knowing that you have to stay out there and there's guys kind of on your shoulder? Yeah,
look, I think I felt great. Sometimes it's an advantage because you can just relax and run smooth and run to your own feel naturally. So I had that till about 50 minutes, and then I felt the last 10 minutes was the last 10 to 13 minutes was a race, because I knew Paul O'Donnell wasn't far away, and I knew then I was starting to feel the hurt a little. So I knew if I let up anyway or started to pop, the Paul would come back on me. So I knew I just had to keep the foot down and keep pressing all the way home.
Is this your first competitive half marathon?
Yeah, first competitive half marathon. So look, I've had some in the past, but just kind of part as marathon prep, and then the body wasn't moving well, so I just kind of struggled with injury a good bit the last few years. So it's nice to be out and back. Yeah.
Did you think at any stage when you were struggling that winning elite races like this was kind of something in the past, or how were you feeling about it?
You never know, you never know. Like I knew, you're still always trying to get back, so it's just, look, I knew the last couple of weeks and last 2 months the body's been in a good place. Training has been going well and just been pretty relaxed about things, so so I'm in a good place, and and you just have to appreciate that and enjoy it in the moment. Yeah.
You're doing a lot of coaching as well. Does that now help your running, the fact that you have kind of your runner's brain, but you also have your coach's brain? Yeah, look, I think you have to ask yourself, what would I tell a lot of my athletes as well? So, and a lot of times you're always telling them, the mental shift of just letting go of the outcomes, enjoy it, enjoying the process of it all. It's just the compounding effect of training, let that happen, and just feeling good and that inner tuition. So always asking those questions, and I have to come back and ask myself and then go, well, what would I tell them to do? So sometimes it takes a little to stop yourself and ask that question to yourself as well, so. I'm not sure if I'm phrasing this correctly, but is this a vindication of the work you've put in since you're, again, comeback mightn't be the right term to use, but you've had injuries and now you're back? Yeah, look, it's a very good starting point. I think it's
it's all about gaining experience over these distances, obviously the half, and then obviously trying to make my way to the marathon, and trying to become more experienced over that. So today was great experience for that, and just getting the feel of how you should be feeling. I knew there's a few times out there I was asking myself today, okay, am I too comfortable, or should I be squeezing more, or am I riding the line? So a lot of those questions out there asking, how should I be feeling? I don't know what that exact feeling is. So it's going to take a couple of more where I'll have to risk it a little bit more and go harder. And if I pop, then I go, now there's too much. And then, today was pretty comfortable most of the way. So I think I ran that pretty well for my current fitness today, yeah.
I'm copying my friend and colleague Eno Reardon's homework here, Eno Reardon of the Irish Times. Were you telling him that the Dublin City Marathon, the full marathon, is now an aim of yours for this year?
Yes, definitely. Look, why not support events that are at home, so it's very easy for us to jump in the car, drive up the road, they looked after us great tonight, gave us a hotel, so it made life a little easier. But I think I like those events, and look, I like representing Clonmel, and I've got two teammates that are two of my great friends, Dave Mansfield and Willie Mansell. So the dream would be to win a national team title with them, in October as well. Yeah.
Clonmel means a lot to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I've been in the club since I've been a kid, so you represent your town and everything with these events, so yeah.
Sean Tobin of Clonmel Athletics Club, well done for winning the Dublin City Council Dublin Half Marathon. Not bad for your first competitive half marathon. Yeah, look, it's great. Look, it's great to see just standing here watching everyone come in. There's huge numbers out here, and it's great to see so many people taking up the sport and enjoying the sport. So it's brilliant for us to see, and look, it's great. It's a great event and great respect.
That's Sean Tobin speaking to Oisin Langan after winning the Dublin City Half Marathon at the weekend. What a great weekend it was for athletics. There was a fabulous athletics meeting in Clonmel on the new TUS track, people getting to see that wonderful facility for the first time. And over in Botswana, of all places, two Tipperary athletes were representing Ireland. Let's have a quick chat with Martin Flynn from Moyne Athletic Club. How are you, Martin?
I'm very good, Ronan. How are you?
I'm very well. I'd say you were a proud man to see Katie. I know she was part of the team. I don't know if she ran, but she was certainly part of that squad that went out to Botswana as part of the 4x100. But for you as a life member of Moyne AC, to see one of your athletes going over to represent Ireland at an international meet like that must fill you with great joy. I know Katie's done it at underage, but this is seniors now.
Yeah, sure. Look at it. It's been a dream come true for her. It's been great for Moyne Athletic Club. She's put Moyne Athletic Club on the map. In fairness, over the last 4 or 5 years, she's won so many numerous titles. But getting the call up to go, her first call up on an Irish senior squad, look, it's things that you dream of as a young athlete. And as a 16-year-old training on the track in mind, that was her dream all her life. But that at someday she would, get that call up, and no doubt there's been many years, tough years in between injury, but yeah, it was a special occasion for Katie and in particular her family, Tony and Ellie, who have driven her all over the country, so very special day. Yeah.
I think, she's pulled on the Irish singlet as a teenager and as a student and all this, that and the other, but I think when you go abroad with an Irish senior team to try and qualify a team as well for World Championships, I mean, you're really pardon the parlance, but that's senior hurling now.
It is, and the fact, I suppose, that they were there for 10 days in the training camp in Stellenbosch in South Africa beforehand, that's going to be huge benefit because the experience gained during that training camp
at altitude
will be great for her. So many of the other countries who were taking part in Botswana, they were actually based in Stellenbosch as well. So you were going, whether it was to the gym or on the track, you were looking at some of those that maybe you only saw on the television a few years ago, but now I'm in there in this, and it's been a great.
I want to ask you about Sharlene very quickly as well, because Sharlene ran her final anchor leg in 48 seconds. I mean, we've known Sharlene Mawdsley as an elite athlete for many years now. I don't know if you saw the race, and it's probably a difficult question, one I need to ask her at some stages. Do you think she prefers chasing than leading?
It's because even interview after, she wanted 4 or 5 metres behind. In actual fact, she was when the batons were handed over, she was a full 2 seconds behind the chap who was leading at the time. And once Sharlene gets you in her sights, believe you me, and she would slow it down. And the way she came down the back straight, you just knew it was expecting that she was going to overtake them. Some people were saying the Jamaicans, but no, this lady had it absolutely timed to a T. And the way she came down the back straight and came off the bend for 48.34 seconds, that brings her into 49 low, maybe 49.1 in,
from a standing start, yeah.
Brings her down over a second on last year, and believe you me, I think Diamond League will be calling for her now in the near future, because times like that, once you go in the league, and fair play to Sharlene, but it's that again, it's down to all the hard work.
It's world class time, absolutely no doubt, and also qualifies Ireland for the World Championships. I got to fly, Martin. It's always good talking to you. We'll talk again soon, friend.
Okay, Ron.
Thanks indeed.
Bye-bye.
Thanks indeed. It's Martin Flynn from Moyne Athletic Club with that really, really good weekend for Irish athletics, and in specifically Tipperary athletics as well. John Long of Nenagh Ormond's on the line. John, how are you?
How are you running?
John, you and I are old enough to remember when getting to a Munster Junior Cup was as good as any Tipperary club could hope for. I kind of miss the fact that you had navigated your way to a Munster Junior Cup. I remember the first time you won it back in the early 2000s maybe. No, you won it a couple of times before that, but I just remember what an event it was, and it still is. And so I just wanted to bring you on to say, firstly, fair play to get into a final. And I know it didn't go your way against Cork, but probably when you look back on your season, that's something that'll appear in your highlights reel.
Massively, yeah. Junior Cup is still a hugely prestigious competition in Munster rugby, As it happened on Thursday night when we announced the team, we had Martin Breslan and Robbie Poole come in and, present the jerseys and give a bit of a speech about it to the younger guys who wouldn't have been familiar with it, And it was good for them to get that message across to the younger guys and just reiterate the importance of how huge a competition it was for Nenagh. It was the holy grail for many years for Nenagh rugby, and it was a huge honour to get there.
Yeah, and what it suggests to me is the overall health of the club, that you're able to put out a junior team that's able to get to a Munster Junior Cup final.
Exactly that. I mean, we're very lucky with the group we have there. We are under 20 squad was in 3 competitions and got to 3 finals, and our second 15 won the Charity Cup and got to the Junior Cup final. So it is definitely a reflection on how well things are going in the background. The first team hadn't the best year, obviously, but again, massive achievement to get there, and yeah, look, I suppose the overall state that the club is in a positive one. Yeah,
and it's really good that we talk about the positives. Yes, you had a challenging year in Division 1A, but again, the key part of that sentence is it was Division 1A of the All-Ireland League. Massive learnings for you, but next year I would imagine you're already starting to prep it, and maybe some of those junior team players might be knocking on the door of your senior squad.
100%, yeah. We learned a massive amount this year. Again, as I said, it was a huge honour to get there. But Division 1A is a pro league, and there's no other way of looking at it. It's week in, week out, you're playing against provincial A-team players, and it's just a step above other clubs throughout the country, and it's a very difficult league, But huge learning curve. I mean, a lot of our under-20 players got 1A caps this year, which is something I don't think many clubs could give. They've learned a huge amount from it, and they've matured and progressed massively as a result. Yeah, I mean,
1A really is a sort of just a drop down below the Celtic League. Name escapes me now, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's that level.
yeah,
URC, yeah. Because like if the likes of Max Deegan, I think he played against him when he was with Lansdowne. You know, I mean, it's very, very difficult. You're up against professional players, and you know these are lads who are going back to the farm or wherever they are in Nenagh and going back to work on Monday morning.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, every week we played against a star player. Tony Butler played for Young Munster in January in Nenagh. Following Friday night, he was playing for Munster down in Cork, you know. Max Deegan played against us, and the following week he was playing URC with Leinster.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very, very hard for a small club to compete against that, you know.
Well, you punch above your weight, John, and I just want to congratulate you on getting to a Munster Junior Cup final, because I know how hard it is to get there, and it's a bloody hard thing to win. And on what has been a good year for Nenagh RFC, irrespective of what of the results in 1A, it's the learning that came with that, and also the overall health of the club as reflected in that Munster Junior Cup final appearance. Thanks for all your time over the year, John. We'll talk next year.
Thanks, Ronan.
Take it easy, John. All the best. That's John Long from Nenagh RFC, looking back on a challenging year, but a year of many, many learnings. David Byrnes is on the line. He's talking racing with me. How are you, David?
I'm good, Ronan.
David, Billy Loughnane from Thurles won the 2,000 Guineas, one of the preeminent early season flat races. It's a guide to the 3-year-olds and who's going to challenge for classics. It's the first classic of the season. He's the youngest jockey to win the 2,000 Guineas since 2018, and Donnacha O'Brien won it back then. So a hell of an achievement for him to win a classic like the 2,000 Guineas.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I don't think it's been our first time talking here on the show about this Billy Loughnane. He's a real star of the future, and he's got a wonderful grounding as well. His dad has given him such a great leg up in racing, and he's just taken everything in his stride. He's taken every opportunity. As a young 22-year-old, you know, it can be a lot of pressure at times, and he was just ultra cool on Saturday and winning. And George Bowie as well, such a young trainer with, such a great gift in training as well. And it was just an absolutely stunning performance by Billy Loughnane. And as I said, he's the real star of the future. He's one of those jockeys that I think you will see in the coming years being, you know, earmarked for the likes of the job with Godolphin and one of those top yards in the UK.
Like, you're getting chased down by Gestad, who was the joint favourite for the race, who's got Ryan Moore on board, he's the Coolmore connections. I think you'd want to have fairly good nerves of steel now to come up the Newmarket straight with that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it, though, Ronan, always, as we mentioned before, is the goods that you've got underneath you. You know, no matter how good, we know Ryan Moore is world class, and unfortunately he came up against a better rival, and it was just such a brilliant performance by Billy Loughnane. He never panicked. He judged the fractions absolutely to perfection, and when he went for home, you know, he knew what he'd under him, and just gave it a world class ride. And to see the joy and the celebrations from Billy Loughnane with his mum and dad after the race, I think is just truly spectacular. And he's a real up and coming talent, and a real star of the future.
Yeah, and it's a tough life being a flat jockey. It's not easy. I was talking to his aunt, I think, at the Tip FM Sports Awards, and I think for a treat on a family holiday recently, he had half an ice cream. That was the only treat he allowed himself. That's the life they lead. People don't really get a picture of it.
No, they don't, Ron. And I think sometimes, you know, you see the people don't realise, both flat and national hunt jockeys, the sacrifices they make for the big successes. You know, sometimes, as you've mentioned, half an ice cream, and it's some are very lucky that they don't have an issue with their weight, and then more struggle with it, and they have to work really hard at it. But the sacrifices are unbelievable. But then when the rewards come like they did at Saturday, I think for the jockeys, it's all worthwhile.
It would be remiss of us not to mention Aidan O'Brien winning the 1,000 Guineas as well the following day on True Love. Wayne Lorden, I think, on board with this one.
That's right. A very, very good performance. And Precise was the went-off favourite under Ryan Moore for Aidan O'Brien, and wouldn't be ruling that out going on to bigger things as the season continues. But Wayne Lorden, again, an absolute integral part of that setup in Ballydoyle, and True Love was a really, really impressive winner. And again, when asked to pick up, and went right away and won very impressively. And I think both of Aidan's Precise and True Love will be very, very nice for the flat season in the coming months.
How does Aidan decide between the French, the Newmarket and the Curragh Guineas?
Well, Ronan,
that's a question I have to ask him.
Yes, but I'm not being smart by saying this, but I'd love to know how they do such a wonderful job in making those decisions.
But I would suggest to you that he affords equal status to those 3 Guineas.
Oh, I would imagine so, yeah.
So he doesn't sort of pick his best horse for Newmarket. He's quite happy to send him to France.
I think it's more a case of picking the horse that's suited to the track and to the course, and I'd say that comes down to the guidance from the likes of Ryan and Wayne Lorden and the lads that are riding out every day. You know, they'd have a fair idea. You know, Wayne and both Ryan Moore have a very good idea of where maybe horses would be best suited, and I think that whisper into Aidan's ear would have a certain element of say in where they'd be going as well.
Yeah, another hugely successful weekend for Tipperary, you know, with Billy Loughnane winning the 2,000 guineas, Aidan O'Brien training True Love for the 1,000 guineas. It's always a pleasure, David. We'll talk again soon. There's many great days ahead of us this summer, I'm sure.
Absolutely, Ronan. Talk soon.
Thanks indeed. David Byrnes there with reviews of the 2,000 guineas. I was going to talk to him about Punchestown, but time is somewhat against us. Before I go any further, just to say that the Tip FM Sports Star of the Month for April is Clonmel Rugby Club, who won the All-Ireland Division 2C title, the Division 2C title, with that wonderful win at home in Ardgeha over Bective Rangers. They went through the year with, I think, 12 wins out of 14, topped the league, went into the playoffs and beat Dolphin in the semi-final and then Bective in the final. So worthy winners of the Tip FM Sports Star of the Month for April, Clonmel Rugby Club. Our text number is 083 311 3311. Let's go live to Cooke Park. Barry Ryan's there. How are you, Barry?
How are you, Ronan?
Any news?
Yeah, well, I just arrived here to be here for the second half. I was doing a bit of coaching in Limerick, thinking this is going to be a real humdinger, and the league title could be over tonight in terms of such a difficult game for Michaels. And St. Michaels are 3-0 up.
Such a difficult game for Michaels. They know how to win difficult games.
Unbelievable. Like, in terms of they're here tonight, there's no Colin Bargery, there's no Shane Ryan, there's no Willie Armshaw. Young Dennis Cremens has come in right back. Luke Ryan has gone into midfield. Two Wild Burris are here, look full strength. And St. Michael's are 3-0 up. Goals from Jimmy Carr, Luke Ryan and Daniel O'Dwyer. And only for the Burris goalkeeper, by all accounts, it will be 5 or 6. So it's an incredible performance on the back of winning 5-0 against Clonmel Town and 5-0 at the start of the week against Cashel. So that was some response from the cup defeat up in Thurles.
So those absentees you mentioned, I presume they're injuries.
Yeah, Willie Armshaw is injured. Colin Bargery was in France with work and was delayed. He was meant to be home for tonight. And Shane Ryan is out of the country. It was pre-booked. So they were big losses to them going into this game tonight against a Burris team that had been a difficult opponent for them. No more so than, you know. But I remember making a point here a couple of months back on the show that St. Michael's didn't always win FAIs or Munsters. They were always used to, they could lose a game and people think, you know, it's the end of the world and the end of this Michael's team. But they've bounced back year after year after different setbacks. And this is a real response. 5-0, and 3-0 up at half-time against Burris. So I think we're looking at a real showdown in Thurles for the league title now.
Well, the league title will go to the last day, which is what we always want, I think, in any code. But also the fact that last week when we were coming to the end of the show, I very quickly asked you, was this the game of the season? And you said absolutely yes, when in that game against Peak. So a chance to do that again.
Yeah, and for anyone who wasn't there, it was an unbelievable game, and you've got to go and see the next instalment of it now. It's going to be a league decider. And, you know, St. Michael's played their part in that game that night as well, but, you know, I suppose to the victor, the spoils go, and Pickville did it with 10 men, which was all the more impressive, and the focus was on Pippi Carroll's hat-trick and Micheál Quinlan's performance. But St. Michael's have come out and they've responded to that defeat, and they're going to be licking their lips. Pickville will now be without Mikey Wade, who was sent off in that game. And Dale Loughnane, who's arguably, you know, one of their best players, is going to be out of the country as well. So that's going to make a huge difference to this contest.
But with the games coming thick and fast, you'd be forgiven. They would be forgiven for having one eye on the Janesborough game next Saturday.
Yeah, like this is St. Michael's third game in 6 days. That's a big ask of players like David Slattery and Jimmy Carr, who are a certain age now. Top players, look after themselves unbelievably well. But I wondered, would tonight be too big an ask for the third time in 6 days? But my God, they've responded to that. And then they're going to have Janesborough, and the winners after they play Janesborough in the Senior Cup, they're going to have an FAI Junior Cup game. They're going to be down in Cork.
Oh, Knocknaheeny comes up first.
They're going to play Knocknaheeny, and the winners of the Knocknaheeny game are going to play Fairview Rangers. So
wow.
So my God, there's a spell of games coming up for St. Michael's that are going to be really, really interesting.
Peakville are away to Ronanstown. I've been through Ronanstown, never been to the ground, but not, you know, tough place to go, I'll put it that way. But anyway.
Yeah, tough place to go, and a brand new team that have been formed in the last 18 months. And those teams can be very unpredictable, and you don't know exactly what you're going into. I know Derek went up to Dublin last week and watched them, which will give them a great advantage. At least you're not going completely into the unknown. But I think from what he said, it's a difficult venue, as you'd expect. And they'll probably, you're going to need to be at your best when you go on the road in the FAI Junior Cup. Commiserations
to Clonmel Celtic out of the FAI Junior Cup in the fourth round. Bonagee United beating them 2-0 at home.
And to be fair, Ronan, top-class opponents. Bonagee finished second to Letterkenny in the Donegal League this year, so that's a really high standard. And the Donegal League has been really, really strong in recent years as well. So,
Carndonna and places like that, very good.
Yeah, it's a soccer stronghold. And they've always had a really, really strong league with the Ulster Senior League and stuff like that. So in fairness, Clonmel Celtic, they did exit to a very, very good side. Letterkenny Rovers beat Peakville 4-1 up there last year to give us an idea of the level, and there's only been 4 points this season between Bonagee and Letterkenny.
Yeah, indeed, that is true. I did see, just before I let you go, that Clonmel Town did win the Youths League.
And Youth League and Cup, which is an unbelievable fill-up for the club to win the double.
I think it is. Level. It's a shot in the arm for the club, yeah.
Yeah, a badly needed one. And those young fellas have played a lot of games with the junior team this year as well. So I think that'll give everybody a little bit of hope that there's players coming through, because anytime you beat St Michael's in a cup final and edge them out in the league title race at youth level, you've got a good youth team.
It's always a pleasure. Enjoy the second half. 3-0 at half time. Thanks Barry.
Much,
take care. That's Barry Ryan joining us there with that second last league game for St Michael's. They're currently playing against Two Mile Bars in Cooke Park, and they're leading 3-0 at half time. That is all we have time for. We hope you enjoyed tonight's show. It was produced by Ian O'Connor. We'll be back with you next week. Good night and good luck.
Online,
on your smartphone,
on your smart speaker,
play Tip FM,
and on FM across Tipperary. This is
at 8.
Tip
Good
FM.
evening, I'm Tina Gates. The World Health Organization says there may have been human-to-human transmission of